However, instead of cooperating with the investigation, the Mayor challenged the party's processes by introducing a number of interlocutory matters, including that the hearing be open to the public and that it should be conducted by an independent person or persons. This is simply not the way our party works. Our processes are regulated by the Constitution of the DA and the rules of the Federal Legal Commission. There is not one set of rules for Patricia de Lille and another for the rest of the party. However, the consideration and adjudication of these matters hugely delayed the process, with the result that substantive issues on which she stands accused have not been dealt with yet. In much the same way as Jacob Zuma, she wanted a day in court, but has set up barriers to getting there. Her actions were not consistent with someone who desperately wanted to clear her name. She sought to delay the process at every possible step. I will now hand over to Refilwe, who will explain the process that were followed.
Thank you, Natasha. While these processes were unfolding, the city itself was confronted with the first report by Bowmans. Pursuant to these findings, the City Council resolved to suspend some officials and to conduct further investigations into the conduct of both officials and politicians, including the Mayor herself. These investigations are ongoing and we will report in due course. Both investigations and the matters that had come to light in the course of them caused the DA and the city to lose confidence in the Mayor and the way she was running the city. Early in January, a substantial majority of the DA caucus requested us to permit them to move a motion of no confidence. We gave permission, and the motion was defeated by a single vote in the City Council. Over 70% of her caucus voted for the motion, yet she remained Mayor thanks to the grace and favor of both the ANC and the EFF, and some 40 DA colleagues. Ever since the days of Peter Murray and Basil Petrus, the erst Mayor of George, the Democratic Alliance has sought a mechanism where executive office bearers in government can be held to account for substandard performance. We had for some time been mulling the introduction of an accountability clause, which would provide that such an executive office bearer who had lost the confidence of his or her peers could be removed from office. At the recent Congress in April, the party adopted such a clause, not only because of the situation in Cape Town, but because we want our executive office bearers to be persons who relentlessly serve the interests of the voters where we govern. We believed and still believe today that office bearers who no longer enjoy the confidence of his or her peers can no longer serve in such a post. I emphasize that a motion of no confidence does not always relate to allegations or charges. It can be introduced because of inefficiency or even style. It is a political judgment and not a legal finding. The Federal Executive has already received 3 applications from DA caucuses to introduce such motions in various office bearers from Matikama, from Cape Town, and from Stellenbosch. The Federal Executive acceded to these requests, and Matikama and Cape Town, the caucuses have voted that they have no confidence in the Mayor, in each case by overwhelming majority. The procedure thereafter is that the office bearer is given the opportunity to make representations why he or she should not resign from that post, and not as a councillor or a member. These are considered by the Federal Executive, who must decide whether or not the individual must resign. The Mayor of Matikama requested an extension, but the Mayor of Cape Town provided such a representation, which included the demand that a number of members of the Federal Executive recused themselves on the grounds that they were allegedly biased. While denying this, the members did recuse themselves. The remaining members debated the motion and the representation for approximately 3 hours, but adjourned the debate, having received draft court papers from Mr. Lille challenging the validity of the accountability clause. At this juncture, I'd like to hand over to James Self, the Chair of the Federal Council.
Thank you very much, Refilwe. In the meantime, Ms. de Lille took part in a radio interview with Eusebius McKaiser on Radio 702 on the 26th of April 2018. In the course of this interview, Ms. de Lille on 2 separate occasions indicated that she intended to resign from the DA as soon as she had, quote, cleared her name. The first was as follows, and Eusebius asked the question, let's say the morning after you win the legal case, however, do you really want to still be part of the DA? And Patricia de Lille replies, no, 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 no. I've said it many times, Eusebius, you know the writing's on the wall that people don't want me for whatever reason. And then on another occasion, Mr. McKaiser asks, if I hear you, you are saying, ideally, I want to clear my name, Eusebius. That's why I'm going to court, and if I win this battle, and when I win it, because I know I've done nothing wrong, then the morning after I've won a court case, then I will resign from the DA. And Ms. de Lille replies as follows, I will walk away. You summed it up correctly. The Democratic Alliance Constitution provides in section 3512 that a member ceases to be a member when he or she publicly declares his or her intention to resign and or publicly declares his or her resignation from the party. Ms. de Lille was invited to explain why she had not, as a matter of fact, ceased to be a member of the party by virtue of this section when she admitted that she intended to resign. She attempted to argue that this referred to her resigning as the mayor. The FLC, the Federal Legal Commission of the party, found that the context showed very clearly that she intended to resign from the DA. Accordingly, the Federal Executive resolved last night to endorse the findings of the FLC that her membership had in fact ceased as with effect from the 26th of April, the date of the 702 interview. We have informed Ms. de Lille and the city manager of this fact. The fact that she has ceased to be a member renders the other processes, that is the disciplinary hearing and the operation of the accountability clause, moot. The Federal Executive did, however, support the motion passed by the caucus and will apply the accountability clause should the need arise. The Federal Executive has therefore not at this point made any decision on the accountability aspect. We wish Ms. de Lille well in her future endeavours and thank her for the service that she has given to the party. This has been a confusing time for the citizens of Cape Town, for which the DA sincerely apologises. Our priority is to restore stability and coherence to the city government so that we continue to provide excellent and responsive services to the people of the city. We recognise that we will need to rebuild trust with the voters and will do our utmost best to ensure that we get back to the business of governing Cape Town.
Thank you, James. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You have been, and if you haven't got yet, you will be provided with a copy of these documents, including the documents relating to the charges served on Mr. Lille. But at this point, I'd like to open for any questions that you may have. Please raise your hand, and when I acknowledge you, please give us your name and the media house that you are from. Sir.
I'm Joseph from the Cape August.
Yes, Joseph.
Just for clarity, so Mayor Patricia de Lille is no longer the mayor of Cape Town. She's basically out. You just said you have informed the city manager as well. Who takes over from her now, and what is the process? And I'm assuming that she has been informed of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's just for now.
James, you're going to take a minute. Right. Ma'am.
Leanne from EFPA. So de Lille argues that she didn't categorically state that she resigned, but this is your interpretation of what her comment was on Eusebius' show. What's your reaction to that?
Sir.
Paul Verman from News 24. Seemingly the accountability clause initially wanted the subject to give them 48 hours to resign. This obviously in the DA's constitution now that doesn't apply. Did the FedEx consider then the sort of legal ramifications, especially given that you postponed the decision? What does this mean for possible court challenges going forward? Does the party have a comment on it?
Jan?
Thank you, Jan from Pretoria. Following on Paul's report of yesterday, it transpired that a social media posting was posted by some of your members, including some of your public reps, which pertained to some falsified documentation purporting to be from the Auditor General's office. Are those people going to be charged with any offence, given that at the point Mrs. de Lille was a dear member in good standing?
Sir.
Sandy Sopanis of Cape China. Normally, such press conferences are being conducted by a DA leader, Ms. Maimane. Is it why he is not here? Is it because of the recent developments over the weekend that he posted on Freedom Day that poverty and white privilege? Why is he not here tonight?
Anyone else? What I'll do is, yes, hi. Yes. Sure. Right, we'll answer the set of questions and then I will open for a second round of questions, if that's okay with everyone. So let's start with that. James will answer your question.
Yeah. The Structures Act provides that in the absence of a mayor, or when the mayor is not capable of acting, then the deputy mayor acts as acting mayor, and that situation will be the way it will be working for the time being.
Right, Leanne, I will answer your question on the interpretation of what Ms. de Lille said on the Eusebius show. I want to reiterate that this was a decision taken by FLC, the Federal Legal Commission of the DA. A transcript and recordings were given to the FLC of the Democratic Alliance to listen to and interrogate thoroughly, which they did. I do just want to repeat what Mr. Self said so that we have it on record again. Eusebius starts off by saying, let's say the morning after you win the legal case, however, do you really still want to be a part of the DA? Mr. Lille replies, no, 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 no. I have said it many times, Eusebius. You know, the writing is on the wall. People don't want me for whatever reason. Eusebius then goes on to say, if I hear you, you are saying, ideally I want to clear my name, Eusebius. That's why I'm going to court. And if I win this battle, and when I win it because I think I've done nothing wrong, then the morning after I've won the court case, I will resign from the DA. Patricia then replies, I will walk away. You have summed it up correctly. Now, I think it's very clear from that Mayor de Lille declares her intention to resign from the Democratic Alliance. And what is important to note is our Constitution is very comprehensive, and I will give you the clause to which you can refer yourself. It's section 3.5.1.2. A member ceases to be a member when he or she publicly declares his or her intention to resign and or publicly declares his or her resignation from the party. So I hope that clears that up for you, Leanne. Paul Herman from E24, James will answer your question.
Yeah, look, it may or may not involve a court challenge to the constitutionality of the accountability clause, but at the moment the matter is moot, since the matter is not before us at the moment. And although I had to recuse myself, and maybe Thomas will be in a better position to give background to that, the federal executive members who stayed behind said, well, there's no point in going any further down this track since the affected member has ceased to be a member on other grounds.
Yan, I'll answer your question. The Democratic Alliance was made aware of a forged document that did its rounds on Twitter and Facebook. Immediately when we became aware of this documentation, you would have seen yesterday I released a statement distancing the DA from this particular document. The DA did not create this document as an infographic or part of our frequently asked questions paper on Mayor de Lille. We did not post this particular post on any of our official platforms. We believe that this matter has been reported to the police, and we follow due processes taken by our courts or by any security agencies. So following findings by the police, we will then make a decision as to what to do to the members that unfortunately posted or reposted this particular false document. But it must be said that false news is a very big problem in our country, and I think we must acknowledge the fact that we need to be incredibly careful before sharing documents to make sure that they are in fact not false. I do want to say this: that particular document at no stage played any role or was included in any documentation used in any of Mayor de Lille's disciplinary hearings or in any of the commissions brought against Mayor de Lille. Rebecca, thank you for that question. Just to clear it up, it was the 26th of April of this year. Further questions, Jan?
There was a question from Musi.
Oh, sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot the question about Musi, which I did have here. I can answer that. The Democratic Alliance has different areas in which people operate. I, for example, am one of the party's spokespeople on the Patricia de Lille issue. I have been communicating to the media on this issue for some time now, and it was felt that because I have been communicating with you, I would be the one to present this press conference together with my colleagues who have been intimately involved in this. It certainly has nothing to do with any comments that were made over the weekend. It is simply because we follow course so as not to confuse the media as to who's communicating on a certain issue. Jan, you have a follow-up?
I do. From your answer, I surmise that you are waiting for the police to finish their investigation before taking any internal steps against people who made these comments. I want to ask how is that the DA policy now, to first wait for police to finish before you act?
Thank you, Jan. Leanne?
So for how long will Ian Nielsen act as mayor? What is the process after that?
Okay. Paul?
I'd just like to know, there's still the matter of the public interest, and you said that the DA will release your own official findings at the appropriate time. Can we get a summary of just exactly what that will be and when it will be released? What does this mean for the court review of the Steenhuisen report as well, where the mayor has asked for evidence to be submitted there as well?
Great, thanks, Paul. Jason? Okay. Yes.
So the allegations against the law, the corruption allegations, the allegations of maladministration, all of that has got nothing to do with this decision. This decision is purely based on the radio interview with Eusebius.
The incredibly polite Jason.
Just a question to Mr. Salford. To my understanding, according to the Structures Act, if the mayor is fired or if she resigns or if the membership is seized, as in this case, the maker obviously resolves as well. So effectively, there's no executive government of Cape Town in effect as it is now. Who will be the maker? When will that process be running? We have a water crisis in the city, so we need a maker member for water to budgetly. June month is coming when the city's budget has to be approved. Council is in 2 weeks' time, so effectively there's no government really. There's a council, but there's no executive government. Mr. Nielsen, everything based on his shoulders now. Just confirm if my understanding is correct.
Great. James?
Yeah, thank you. If I can just respond to Jan's question. The policy of the DA for some considerable time has been that if a duly constituted state agency is involved in an investigation, we wait for that investigation to be concluded before taking any of our own steps. And the reason for that is that the constituted state agencies generally have things like powers of subpoena and so on that we don't have. And we don't want to come to one conclusion and the police come to another conclusion. So we wait for the investigation by the state authorities to finish, and then if needs be, we will take further action if required.
James, Leanne wanted to know about Ian Nielsen.
Yeah, How long would he act? I think, if my memory serves me correctly, the Structures Act says as soon as possible, and so we would then seek to regularise the situation as soon as possible by getting a permanent mayor. And if I can just carry on then to Jason's question about the MACO, it is true that the MACO dissolves with the mayor, but we are very much aware of the need to preserve stability of government, and I have received from the Deputy Mayor some suggestions for the composition of that MACO. In terms of our procedures, that must be presented to our Federal Executive, and we hope to do so in the course of today.
Paul's question, James, I think that was aimed at you. He asked you specifically.
About the summary. Yeah. Look, we're just involved in some negotiations and consultations with people that gave evidence before the Steenhuisen Committee. But our own view is that there's nothing in the Steenhuisen Committee evidence that can't be shared, apart from people who, for one reason or another, believe that they might suffer retribution or intimidation. So we're in the process of checking out with people whether or not they're comfortable with those documents being released, and we will then make a decision accordingly.
And the Auditor General report, the Bowman's Gulfland report...
Yes, those have all, to the best of my knowledge, been available, even if not officially available, if you know what I mean.
Will it become official?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rahisa, yes, you are absolutely correct. This particular proceeding today has nothing to do with the disciplinary charges or the Steenhuisen Commission or court actions. The cessation of membership today happens based entirely on the breach of our constitution, as I read out earlier, in terms of Mayor de Lille declaring on Eusebius's show her intention to resign. Right, we have another set of follow-ups. Yan?
Thank you. Who laid the complaint against Mrs. de Lille following from the Makaiser radio show?
Okay. Right. Leanne, I saw your hand.
Yeah. Are you hoping that the DA de Lille saga ends here, or are you prepared for a more protracted legal battle between the party and DA?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Tandi. I'm from SABC. Mayor Patricia has always said that she does not know what she has done wrong. Now, with the disciplinary process is now being moved, does that mean people will never know?
Okay.
Victim will never know what she has done.
All right, I'll answer that. Paul?
Just one follow-up question on the false news document that did the rounds. Okay, so that is not a part of the party's official reason why the particular rules charges. But I'd just like to know, on record, how does the party feel about the fact that there is seemingly false news doing the rounds in this regard? Does it make it more complicated for you to address this issue? And if the police investigation yields nothing, will the party at least consider its own actions with regards to getting to the bottom of what exactly happened, who possibly created, and how your members got a hold of it?
Okay. Yan, it was made public over the weekend regarding who laid the complaint about Patricia's utterances on Eusebius's show. I can confirm that the Free State provincial leader, Ms. Patricia Kopane, laid the charges, and I do believe that Ms. de Lille made her answering letters made known to the public. So that is in the public domain. James, you'll answer Leanne's question.
Yeah, look, I would like to think that the saga ends today, but I doubt it. Somehow I just know how these things work. But having said that, the Cape High Court has dealt with 3 separate cases relating to this particular clause in our Constitution, and in all 3 cases has decided that the people's membership did in fact cease as a matter of fact if they did what they said they would do. So I anticipate that there is going to be some sort of challenge, and we are prepared to meet that challenge.
Thandi, thank you very much for your question. Thandi, as we've said in our media report, and as it will be distributed to you, I see you don't have it yet. The Federal Executive invited the Mayor to provide an account of the matters following the Steenhuisen Commission, and on the 14th of January this year, we provided a charge sheet to her. This charge sheet will be given to you today. And as you've heard from James, we will also be providing you with all other documents to this regard. So the DA now is opening all the documents that we have that are legally permissible. We'll be making those available to the media, and you will be getting copies of those today. Paul, in terms of the false news, let's be honest, it's a massive problem not only in South Africa, worldwide. False news it's on the increase, and it's becoming increasingly problematic. It is very unfortunate that these documents were put on the internet, and it's very unfortunate that people didn't check that these documents were authentic before sharing them. So, of course, especially as a political party, we do everything we can to ensure that we never provide information that's false. We know of 2 public reps at this stage who did press, a share button on Twitter or on Facebook and shared this document. What we do know is that this document was not created by the Democratic Alliance, and under no circumstance was it ever did it form part of our documentation on our website, in any of our formal communications. So we know that it did not emanate from the Democratic Alliance. Unfortunately, it was shared. So I do think, and I'm sure James will agree with me, it's one of the issues going forward as social media grows and develops. It's something that we're going to have to look at very seriously. And we have a very, very comprehensive social media policy. And I'm sure that fake news is going to have to become part of our policy as we move forward, because we are seeing a massive increase in fake news, and certainly it does create confusion. And yes, you're right, it does create problems for us, because yesterday afternoon we spent the bulk of the afternoon dealing with the fact that the country wanted to know how this fake news was created. Well, Paul, no one wants to know how it was created more than I do. So absolutely, it's a huge problem, and one that as a political party we're going to address going forward very sternly.
If the police investigation yields nothing, will the party consider doing its own probe?
Absolutely. I think that goes without saying. We can't claim to be a party of accountability if we don't hold our own members to account. So certainly we will be looking at doing some kind of probe to get to the bottom of it. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your questions this morning. For those of you that don't have copies of our documents, they are available at the front, and I welcome you to get hold of them. If you have any further queries during the day, I will be available to answer your queries. Thank you very much for coming, and keep warm and dry in the rain. It's wonderful to have it in Cape Town today.
Well, of course, so there you have it. If you have just tuned in, the DA has rescinded Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille's membership. We were hearing the party's federal chair, executive committee, the chair himself, Mr. James Self, making reference to an interview that de Lille had conducted on the 26th of April 2018, saying that according to the DA's constitution, I think it's 3.5.1.2 in their constitutional clause, citing that if a member intends to, or rather says that they will be resigning and publicly declares that they will be resigning, according to the party and its constitution, gives ground for that membership to cease. And that seems to be, one of the questions that many are asking. Is this then now taken around that interview that was conducted, and of course being confirmed there by Natasha Mazone of the DA, saying that yes, indeed, if a member does publicly declare that he or she will resign, then the party then takes that as the cessation of membership. Just having a look at some of the views that have been coming on Twitter, also via the press briefing there. The DA saying that the mayoral issue has caused huge damage to the party, and that's the news that has just come in, of course, that then confirms that a DA's membership of embattled Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille has been seized. We will be giving you more updates as well as reaction to this announcement that has just been made by the DA. For now, though, let's take a short break.